Continue with exercise 3. It wants us to prepare a member server to join it to the domain. We're going to make sure domain controller is running, and it's running over here. And they want us to log on to our second server that we created. We named it in the virtual world SID-A. It still has some kind of weird Windows name, so we need to rename it. We need to give it a static IP address. We want to sign into it. I'll click on the Control-Alt-Delete and type in a password of $PA$$W0RD. Once I come in, Server Manager will start up. We really don't need to have that run, but we can just run to PowerShell, right-click on PowerShell, and run as administrator. And go ahead and close Server Manager. You can do this from the command prompt. So while we're in PowerShell, we want to type CMD, and that brings us to the command prompt. The first command is to set the static IP address. It is listed as 10.10.10.20. We want to change all the 10.10.10s to 192.168.118. So the command would be netsh interface IP version 4. We want to set the address for the Ethernet adapter. We want it to be a static address. And it's going to be 192.168.118.20. The next command is to set the DNS servers. We want to point it to our domain controller, the .10 server, netsh interface IP version 4. In this case, it's to set DNS servers. Also for Ethernet, it is also going to be static, but it's going to be the IP address of the other server, 192.168.118.10. And it's going to be our primary DNS entry. And let that finish. The last command is to actually rename the computer, and we're using netdom rename computer. And the computer name, instead of having to type the whole computer name in, the obscure win-something name, you can use the Windows variable of computer name. We want to give it a new name of SID-A. The operation will rename the computer. Certain services might have issues. Are you sure you want to continue? Yes, you do. Hit enter. The computer needs to be restarted in order to complete the operation, and we can do that now. We can do a shutdown, and we want to do a restart, so /R, and we have to give it some kind of time frame to do that. I'll give it 1 second to give it reboot pretty quickly. And when I log back in, I can run PowerShell as administrator. Go back to the command prompt. It might be a little bit slow because Server Manager is still running in the background, wants to launch in the background. I guess we could let it wait and do that. At the command prompt, we want to do the netdom command. And in this case, we want to join this computer, SID-A, to the domain called contoso.com. command is successful, the computer needs to restart in order to complete the operation. And we will shut it down once again. And now it's on the domain. When we log in, we should see that it's going to try to log on to the domain. Actually, because it wants to log as an administrator, administrator accounts always want to log into the local machine, even if there's a domain available. If any other username is included in there, it's going to automatically try to log into the domain. Otherwise, it tries to log to the local machine. The last step wants us to log on to the actual administrator account on the Contoso domain, not as administrator on a local machine, so we'll have to switch the user at the login screen. Come to the sign-in screen. This again is looking for the administrator account on the local machine. We must switch to a different user, other user, and you can see it's trying to log into Contoso. If I log in as administrator, it's going to try to log in locally. I don't want to do that, so I have to make sure that I put Contoso at the beginning and hit the backslash. Contoso / administrator. Then you're signing into the Contoso domain. The password, both locally and on the server, are both password. And I'm logging onto the Contoso domain as administrator. And now you log onto the domain. This is for exercise 3 for the second server. Exercise 4 is exactly the same step by step as exercise 3. It's just working with the SID-B computer. The only difference is for the static IP address. The DNS server address is all the same as we just did in this exercise, but the static IP address for the server itself, it was a .30 for our third server instead of the .20 for our second server. After Server Manager finishes loading, we can close it and shut down this machine. Close the Server Manager. I can hover down the lower right hand corner to bring up the sidebar, click on Settings, click on Power, and shut down. At this point, I can launch SID-B and do the same thing for exercise 4.